We're live.
Good morning, students, and good morning, teachers and staff that are joining us today. We are very glad that you are with us on this Wednesday, and we're looking forward to gaining your insight and your feedback as to what your thoughts are as we plan for the time between today and the last day of school. I call that planning for the dash. Mr. Gannon, would you please bring up the slide deck?
Oh,
Thank you. So my name is Dr. Woodward. I am the Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning for the Pleasanton Unified School District. And we have our members of cabinet on our time together with us this morning. And so we want to just reaffirm that we are all PUSD. We are here together and we are working very hard to support you as we finish off this year. So let's go ahead and let's go to the next slide, please. As we move forward and finish this year strong, we have several guiding principles that we use when we're making decisions and that help guide our work. And the first is that we want to provide a learning environment that mitigates health and safety risks as much as possible. It's very important to us that we keep all of our staff and our students and our community safe. We want to focus on supporting all of our secondary students academically, emotionally, and socially, while continuing to provide a high quality instructional program. And in that program, we need to support our remote learners and those students who come to school in person. We also are working to continue to expand our small cohort supervision program for students who are having difficulty accessing remote learning. And of course, as we think about how we might transition into in-person instruction, it is very important for us to allow for parent and guardian choice while minimizing disruption to courses and schedule changes as much as possible. And then finally, we do defer to our state's tiered color system to guide plans for students to return to school for in-person instruction. And we follow this data very closely. And that is when we are able to determine if we can bring students back once we leave the purple tier and head into the red tier. Next slide, please. Thank you. So our Board of Trustees has approved this as our return to school timeline. You will notice that this does not include specific dates. That is because we are going by the state's colored tier system. So as long as we are in the purple tier, our schools are closed to in-person instruction. When we go into the red tier, 2 weeks after we enter the red tier, we will be bringing back our preschool, transitional kindergarten, first and second grades to our campus, while still allowing our remote learners to access instruction from home. The following week, after being in the red tier for 3 weeks, our 3rd through 5th grade students will be coming back to school for those who choose to come in person. And then after 4 weeks of being in the red tier, then we look forward to welcoming you, our high school students, back to school for those of you who want to come on campus in a manner that will be decided very quickly. Next slide, please. So we wanted to be able to share with you some of the data that we obtained when many of you completed a survey that was sent out a few weeks ago. On this survey, you were asked to rate how well you thought remote learning was going for you. 949 students responded, and this represented a total from middle school and from high school. So that was about an 11% return rate. When asked how well remote learning was going, 61% of the students reported that it was actually going better than expected. 31% indicated that it was going somewhat well, and 8% indicated that it wasn't working well at all for them. Next slide. Students also ranked their key motivating factors for returning to school in person. Of the 5 choices provided, the same 3 primary factors ranked the highest for students, namely the need for social connection with students and with teachers. And this was followed by the need for academic support and the increased mental health concerns that are arising due to the isolation from this pandemic. The remaining 2 factors, extracurricular activities and challenges accessing remote learning, actually rank lower than these top 3. We'll just pause for a second so you can kind of look at that. Thank you. Next slide. When students were asked what was working well in remote learning, the top responses were the daily instructional schedule. As you know, we've been on a modified block schedule since the beginning of the year for both middle school and high school. We received input that technology was, for the most part, stable, and that the family dynamics and living situation made remote learning workable. Also, we received input that the amount of time spent on synchronous instruction was working well, and the types and amounts of assignments were reasonable. Again, if you look down to the last line, the choice with the fewest response for what is working well was social interaction. You'll see a connection with that as we proceed to the next slide. So then we wanted to know from our students, what issues or challenges, what were the primary ones that they have experienced? And the responses indicated that of the issues and challenges encountered during remote learning, over 67% of our students listed lack of social interaction as the biggest challenge, and nearly 40% indicated mental health concerns. The other main challenges included too much screen time and the amount of assignments. Could we go back to the previous slide, please? So on this slide, again, down at the very bottom, the last bar, is that what's working the least well is social interaction. And then the next slide, please. And this is consistent as well with this slide, that the biggest issue and challenge is the lack of social interaction. I think that we can all agree that as a society, this is what has made this pandemic so very difficult, is not only has our learning has been disrupted, but the time that you get interacting with someone else on a screen, no matter how robust it is, no matter how well planned it is, it's just not the same as being in person. So we want to be able to bring you back to school as soon as we can. So I'd like to show you a little bit about what has just been sent, what will be sent out to your families today, in order that we can gain new data on who is committed to coming back to school and who wants to finish the year in remote. We want to make sure that our families and our students know that they have choices concerning what they think is best for them in terms of the need to stay home or the need to come on campus. So students, we want to share this with you so that you could alert your families to please check their email so that every student in middle school and high school would have a survey completed for them. It will help us with the planning, and we need to know this information. So would we please click on that link? And we're going to just go through this very quickly. This is just a bird's eye overview of the survey. So if you want to just continue to scroll down, please. So students, your families will be asked to decide if you'll be staying in remote learning for the rest of the year. If you want to come back in person on the 2-1-2 model that would replicate the Bell schedule that we're on right now. Of course, you know that you would be divided now into an A group or a B group, and we would do that in order to ensure that there are smaller numbers in all of our classrooms. If you are in the A group and if you are in school on Monday and Tuesday, you will continue to access your remote instruction on Thursday and Friday. even though the B group would be on the campus at that time. And for students who are remote learners, you'll continue to access your instruction from home as you're currently doing right now. Of course, there will be some modifications as we get used to doing the concurrent instruction as a strategy. And we know that as we continue to expand our use of concurrent instruction, we'll continue to improve in that area. So I do want you to know that there will be a transition process, but we will also be able to support those of you who want to come to school in person during this time. So you'll be able to choose if you're going to be coming back in person, remote. If you are currently in long-term independent study, you would need to mark that. At this point in time, long-term independent study is full, so we're not accepting any new students except for those who have already submitted their interest for that. We also realize that some students and some families may not have a preference. And so if this is the case, we're going to ask that you mark that too. Thank you. Let's just scroll down through the whole slide so that they can kind of see what the survey will look like. You'll notice it's been translated into multiple languages, and that is why it is a little bit longer. And there will need to be one survey for each student. And then following this page will be a page where your families would make a choice. Your ID number will need to be entered in this along with the student name and school site. And then our sites will be actually sending this survey out. It will go out from each of the schools and they will be collecting the data, but they will share the data with us so that we'll have a good sense of what's going on in our school district. Thank you. I think we can get back to the slide deck now. Perfect. So let's go to the next slide. So since we're actually doing this town hall today on YouTube because of the large number of students that we have, that we were afraid it could exceed our license if we were to do it on Zoom. And we want to thank our teachers for making it possible for their students to be able to participate in this. And we want to thank students for taking the time to be a part of this. So we really want to hear from you, and the way that we're going to do that today is by engaging you in what's called a thought exchange. And the question that you'll be responding to is, in thinking about the remainder of this year, what might we do to support your academic, social, and emotional well-being? We want you to answer this question for us, regardless of the option that you will select for the rest of the year. I'm going to ask Dr. Vandekamp right now to explain a little bit about how the thought exchange works and how you can enter your own thoughts. Dr. Vandekamp?
Thank you, Dr. Woodward. Good morning, students and staff. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you today. Our Thought Exchange is a way, it's a crowdsourcing platform, and it's a way to share your responses and your ideas about this question. And then you'll also be asked to go ahead and rate the thoughts of others. So this is the same Thought Exchange that we used at the town hall last week for students. And we want to gather more information around your thoughts and then how you're responding to the thoughts of your peers. So please go to, you can either click on the, well, you can't click on the link, but you can use the QR code. You can go to tejoin.com and then you'll enter this 9-digit code and it will take you to our Thought Exchange. So right now I'm going to go ahead and go to the Thought Exchange so that you can also see, I'll go back here, so that you can also see your thoughts as they are being added. So here is our QR code and our question and the 9-digit code. So you can go ahead and enter that, and you can already see we've increased by over 100 participants and thoughts. And we're going to give it, how much time would you like us to take, Dr. Woodward?
I think that in order for the students to really be able to provide their input and look at the thoughts of other students and rate those, let's give it 4 minutes.
All right.
And then afterwards, we'll spend some time really debriefing on what the patterns are that we're seeing. Does that sound good?
That works for me. Thank you. So students, go ahead and add your thoughts. And then once you've done that, it'll ask you to rate the thoughts of others. So you can see here, continue to add your thoughts. The website and the code, the access code is still there for you. But what you can see here is how you are connected to your peers in your thinking. So all of the little bubbles, that represents the thoughts. And here are all the people also who are connected. And so you can see each time it shifts, it's really about the connections you have to each other. And you can also see the top thoughts that are rated here as well. And that's based on the number of stars that you're giving these thoughts. All right. So you can see, and as you continue to rate these thoughts, and we'll leave this open until at least the end of the week, so you can always go back and share other thoughts as they come up, and also rate the thoughts of others, so you can have time to go back and do that as well. And you can see the top rated thoughts here that, as you said, no offense, we've asked you to stop giving us so much work so many times. So, and then also that teachers should be more forgiving and put less work on students. The stress levels are way too high. It's getting too hard to sign on each day. First semester was okay. Now it seems long and drawn out. So also thoughts about Zoom permissions and making Zoom accounts with each other on school, Zooms with each other on school accounts. More time for homework. Prepare to go back fully next year and not try to fix it this year. Find ways for students to connect. And you can see that this is an active conversation that we're having. And I have to say, I've never seen this phenomenon before, that there's getting to be this another bubble forming, so that there are two bubbles around different sets of thoughts. So that's pretty interesting. Thank you for that. So you can see the thoughts here. And I know, Dr. Woodward, did you want me to share more around the themes?
Yes, I think I'd like that. In fact, I'm curious to see what our top ranking thought is right now. Could you scroll to the top and let's see if it's changed?
Nope, still the same.
Okay. I do want to respond a little bit to that one. We are definitely trying to take action and bring those of you back to school as soon as we're in the clear with our health and safety guidance. So just know that that is what we're doing as well. Every time we have a forum like this, we do look at the data and we do analyze it and see what the current trends are. And then we will share those trends with our site administrators, who then can share those findings with our staff, our teachers, and our classified staff in order to reflect and continue to refine practice for the rest of this year.
All right.
So Dr. Vandekamp, this is interesting. I've done a lot of thought exchanges and I've never quite seen it go into the two different clusters like I have today. So that is very interesting. We'll keep our eyes on what that might mean.
That was what I was thinking too. Did you want to go in and look at the themes on the dashboard? What would you like to do right now?
Yes, let's go ahead and do that.
All right. So I'm going to move over here. and we will go to the dashboard. And so this will just give us some information about who is responding. And then what we can do is let's look at the word cloud. We'll start there. So you can see what those words are in your thoughts based on the number of stars that they have, the things that jump out around assignments, homework, less and screen come up. Those probably go together. Health comes up. The mental and emotional stress comes up. So those are all words that are coming up in your thoughts. And then in addition, we can look at the themes that are being developed. So this is the number one theme based on the number of stars for thoughts is around homework, time. So some of those thoughts talked about the amount of time that was being used on screens. This is around the school year, your activities, mental health, the work, the amount of work, breakout rooms, small groups. There's a theme around staying online. And then we would have to look deeper into this to see what that is around thinking and people. There's also an unthemed bar, thoughts around friends, needing help, social interaction, and then learning. So those are the themes that are coming up in this thought exchange based on the stars, the ratings.
Thank you so much. Would there be any value in going to maybe the differences tile or the heat maps and seeing what might be happening there?
The heat maps is what we have we're looking at, the shifts as students are rating the thoughts. The differences we can certainly look at here. And what it does is it generates two sides to each issue. So this is overall, the differences are really around too risky for kids. It's not worth the trade-off between a life and a social life. So that's one side. Bring us back to the classroom is the other side. So you can see that there are thoughts on both sides of this conversation. And then there are some that have those two sides in common.
Very interesting. So if students wanted to be able to spend more time really seeing what their peers are saying and maybe even wanting to get a sense of the different points of view, how might they go about doing that?
What we can do is once we close the thought exchange, and then I can have some time to create some information, we can create a slide deck that we can share we can put it on our website or we can share in whatever way you want us to do that. So, and we can include these differences and the word cloud and the bars as well.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, this has been very interesting, and I know that we are all going to be pouring through the responses so that we can continue to plan. Interesting. So now we're closing out with our top thought being,
give us more time for homework. Some teachers have been assigning work and making it due the same day, assuming we'll do it during asynchronous time.
Great feedback. Thank you very much. So Dr. Van de Kamp, would you say that we'll leave the thought exchange open maybe until today at 5 p.m. or do we want to do
We
tomorrow?
can leave it open till Friday.
Okay, let's leave
I
it
think
open till
that
Friday.
gives people time to go back and kind of think about that question as well. And then be able to go back through that lens and look at what other peers are thinking.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and close this off right now. And thank you all for your time. Again, a big shout out to our teachers for doing the work that you've been doing this year and for inviting your students to participate in our high school town hall. Remember, students, please have your parents or your guardians complete one survey per student so that we can capture accurate data. I want to say thank you to the entire PUSD team, including our superintendent, Dr. Haglin, our assistant superintendents, Mr. Dialazo, Mr. Hernandez, and Mr. Sheikhoslami, and to everyone, our teachers, our administrators, our classified staff, our students, our parents, our families, everyone in our community that has worked so hard to help us get through this pandemic. I do think that the light is at the end of the tunnel. It's not necessarily coming as quickly as we'd want it to come, but it is there on the horizon. So we just have to believe we're going to get there. We're going to do it together, and we'll continue to be strong and finish out this year as well as we can. And we believe in you and we thank you. So on that note, I'll go ahead and I'll close this town hall, and we'll look forward to doing another in the future. Thank you, students and staff.